Well, my name's Shane McNamara and I work with the Beer and Cider Academy. And so today we're down at Howling Hops in the very east end of London in Hackney Wick. And we're going to try some different beers today and match them with some food that we have with Billy Smokes. So we've got some nice ones. The first one we're going to start with is a Kolsch beer. Actually, it's got its beer origin coming over from Cologne, which is on the west side of Germany there. And actually the style has an appellation. So it's a Kolsch style beer over here called Kolsch. It's not Kolsch because of course you'd have to be in the city of Cologne to produce a beer like that. This style of beer is quite unique in that we have three kind of families of beer. We have ale, lager, and a mixed fermentation, which would be something like our sour beers. This one is actually a bit of a misnomer. So it's actually an ale yeast, so Saccharomyces cerevisiae, but it's brewed and fermented at lager temperatures. So if ale's usually fermented at around about 20 degrees, lager maybe 12 degrees. This one, they've taken an ale yeast and done it probably around about 14 degrees. Once it's finished fermenting, they also lager or store it as well. So they treat it very much like a lager, even though the yeast is an ale, which would usually separate our styles. So it's a very clean, crisp beer with a really nice malt aroma and malt body to it. It's not really about the hops, it's not about the bitterness. It's all about this nice light malt flavor coming with it. What we've paired with it is actually some chicken wings, but chicken wings that are not that buffalo spicy end. It's got lemon zest, coriander, and a little bit of chili. So kind of those nice light spiciness to it sits really well with the beer. It's a very light-bodied beer. They've got some quite flavoursome food, but it's also not taxing on the palate. So it should be a really kind of nice mix there. So the second one we've got is an American amber ale, which is a slight tweak on an Irish red ale or an American pale ale. So it's an evolution coming out of the States whereby they've added in some amber malt into the malt mix, and that provides you a kind of richer malt body to it and lowers the colour of the beer a little bit into this kind of nice red ruby hue kind of sense. So the beer we've paired with it, the food we've paired with it, is something to kind of match that intensity. So if you've got this light kind of Kolsch beer, quite light body, it's very petite in kind of the spectrum of styles. Now we're upping the malt body, it's a little bit more intense, so we need to kind of match that intensity of the beer with some relatively intense foods. What I've chosen is some smoked beef, and this is kind of that rich umami sense to it. A fair amount of body you'll get from that particular food. So it's going to match well with the beer. On the top side of that, you've got really nice aromatics coming from the beer, some slight resinous undertones that can go really well with the horseradish siding that's paired with the beef brisket there. So our next one, number 3, is an American pale ale. So kind of the ubiquitous beer of the moment. It's an evolution from an English pale ale to an English IPA, and now we've got an American IPA. The difference between, let's say, an English IPA and an American IPA is primarily coming from the hops, right? So English hops, which are grown in very much a maritime climate, will give you earthy and herbal undertones, whereas your American hops, which are grown, say, in the Yakima Valley, will give you more of those citrus, grapefruit, kind of fruity overtones there. So what the brewer's done is have a really nice simple malt body, very similar actually to our Kolsch here, but what they've done is they've loaded with full of American hops. So you've got a slightly more bitter, far more alcohol. This is 6.9%, but very much fruity overtones. And what we've paired it with today is a really nice courgette and rocket salad with some lemon zest and herbs going in there. So what you've got is actually those lemon zest and herbs are going to give some nice complexity back to the beer, where you've got these kind of fruity overtones. You've got these nice herbal bits that are coming back from the salad there. Both are relatively intensely flavoured, but not very taxing on the palate there. Hence, they should be quite a nice match today. Our final beer here today is a chocolate stout. It's a slight twist on, I guess, what you've seen, the Guinness that most people had in terms of dry Irish stout. This one actually has lactose in it. And so when you add lactose, which is a milk sugar, just a very small amount will be residual sitting in the beer. So it's not going to be fermented away by the yeast. It provides a nice sweetness to it. And all the chocolate flavors in this beer are actually coming from the malt. So they've used light and dark kind of roasted chocolate malt. So there's no chocolate in there, but the flavor compounds you find in chocolate will also develop during the specialty malting kilning process. And so that's how they're getting in there. Not putting chocolate in chocolate stout, but you're getting those same kind of aroma and flavor compounds there. And what we've paired that with is a burnt orange dessert. And what I really actually want again is actually, this is kind of a bit greedy, but it's giving something back to the beer. Those kind of burnt orange ends from our dessert are going to come back into the beer and provide another kind of complexity to it there. So it's the beer's going to change from this nice soft milk chocolate end to having some really kind of orange zesty undertones there. So hopefully they'll work out today, and that's how we go. Cheers.